saying? Yeah. Yo, where them Catholics at? Man, what's the matter with these bishops?
Alrighty, welcome back to the Catholic Convert Show. It's another beautiful day in paradise, and you can't complain because there's nobody there to listen. But what is it? Here we are, one day before Independence Day, and Ed and I were talking for about 10 minutes before the show started, and we weren't sure what we were going to do tomorrow, but I'm going to go ahead and make a decision here. You don't have to listen to us tomorrow. I literally made that decision just now. You don't have to listen to us tomorrow. Because, look, if you're spending your 4th of July holiday listening to me and Ed just ramble on about all of the things that we ramble on, then you have a problem. You need to get a more exciting life. You need to be blowing your fingers off or teaching your kids how to blow their fingers off, jumping in and out of the pool, spending time in the emergency room for the first activity that I mentioned. That's what makes it a truly American holiday, not listening to guys like me and Ed. So there will be no show tomorrow. Now that we got that out of the way, how you doing, Ed?
Well, now that I know I have the day off tomorrow, I'm doing great.
Yeah. And the best part is you're going to get paid the same amount whether you're on or not.
You know what? See, that's the thing, because if we worked the holiday, you would have paid me double, I'm sure.
Yeah. But you're on salary, so we don't do any kind of incentive bumps when it comes to pay. But luckily, you also don't get docked either.
I will take that. That's good enough.
Yeah. If you want to renegotiate, call the union rep. We'll get that figured out sooner or later.
Yeah, just forward me his name and email, please.
Yeah, his last name's Hoffa. If you can find him.
Actually, I know where, in my basement.
He's probably down there. That's why no one's found him yet. Oh, man. We're always off to a terrible start.
Yes,
it's okay, though.
Yeah, it's all good.
We talk a lot of smack on this show. Well, I do, anyway. We talk smack about Protestants and the weird... it's just weird, how they can't quite understand some of the things that we do in the Catholic Church. Like I had one lady, she seemed very nice, very pleasant. She was like, why do you need to pray to saints instead of Jesus? Why would you pray to someone else instead of God? And I'm like, why is it so hard to understand that we do both? Like we go directly to Christ.
Yeah, they always think that we do
directly to Christ. We go directly to God.
Yeah.
But we also say, hey, Saint Joseph, hey, Mary, can you do us a favor and pray for us? We do that too. But they always seem to leave that part out. Like they can't quite understand that two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
It's weird to me. And I don't know if it's because, most people that are Protestant, they grew up in pretty much an anti-Catholic household, right? I know of very few Protestants that think the Catholic Church is okay, also Christian, right? There are several that do. There's several that go, oh yeah, 100%. They're a legitimate Christian church. Yeah, 100%. I'm just not Catholic. I know some Protestants who are like that, and God bless them. They're awesome. But very few, the majority of them are, well, they're just not doing what the Bible says. They're just not doing this, and they can't be Christian because they're praying to other people instead of God. There's no instead. Stop doing that. It's not instead. We go directly to Christ. We go directly to God. But we also say, hey, y'all, pray for us. Pray to God that we get delivered from this trial of having our car keys lost. Talking to you, Anthony of Padua. You know, we it's like, oh, you know, I struggle so much with how difficult that is for them to grasp. I'm like, I almost want to say Catholicism is common sense Christianity. And I don't mean to say it derogatively towards anyone else, but they always seem to have it as an instead of, rather a and. And Catholics, we are notorious for the yes, we do, or yes, it is, and we have a yes and throughout our entire theology. You know, is Christ human? Yes, and he's God. You know, we do the yes and for everything. Do you pray direct? Do you pray to the saints? Yes, and to God. You know,
Yeah,
it's weird to me.
it is. Yeah, but Jeff, you probably, I mean,
they just leave the other part out.
It shouldn't be hard at all. No, but it's true that and you kind of touched on it, is that, you know, a lot of Protestants grow up in either an anti-Catholic household, or even worse to me, an anti-Catholic congregation. And people will say that doesn't happen. I know for a fact that it does, because, you know, I put on a lot of Christian music concerts. So I'm always looking for ways to attract folks to the church and to the faith. And so sometimes I do like a coffee house kind of thing, and I'll have a couple of Christian bands or artists come in and play some songs. We'll have, you know, wine and cheese or whatever, and people can just kind of hang out and listen to some good music. But I would always, if it was a new band or a new artist, and if I know they're not Catholic, I would have to vet them. So I would find out where they were going to be playing in the area, and I would watch them, because I just want to make sure that their songs aren't going to, you know, mess with the theology of Catholicism, right? So I would go see them at a Methodist church, an Episcopalian church, a non-denominational, whatever it was. And because a lot of times they would be they would call them a worship leader for the day. So even though they were just there to sing, but then the pastor would say a few words, and I was always amazed. I'm sitting there in a pew, and a guy would come out, and he'd automatically go into this anti-Catholic, anti-Pope, anti-priest, you know, this whole tirade. And I'm thinking, why do you care so much that you're going to spend your sermon time on bashing the Catholic faith? I never quite understood that. And it was just very interesting to me. And sometimes I would actually take the time afterwards to go and talk to the pastor and say, like, listen, I got to tell you, I was here for your sermon. I have some issues with some of the things you said. If I'd love to have a coffee with you and talk about it. But the thing of it is that my point being that if you're in congregation A and you are on a weekly basis being told that these people that call themselves Catholic, they're not Christian, they're pagan, they're idol worshipers, they're all going straight to hell, you tend to believe that. I mean, I'm old enough that when I was in elementary school, we still did the whole thing where they would put the fire alarm on, but it was for a nuclear attack, and we would climb underneath our seats in the classroom.
Oh, I remember
which
those.
Obviously, if there was a nuclear attack, you remember those? But I mean, obviously,
they just don't want you to burn your eyes looking at the flash. Okay.
Is that what it was? But I mean, even as a kid, I thought, well, you're telling us that a nuclear explosion is going to like wipe out half the planet.
You take the book and you put it on your head like this in the hallway.
Yeah, right. That'll do it. It'll keep the radiation off you. But the thing of it is that when we would do that, and it was backed up with, well, who is it that's going to attack us? Well, it's the Soviet Union. So when you're 7, 8, 9 years old, you think there's this entire country on the other side of the world where every single person just hates you and despises you and wants you dead. You know what I mean?
Well, with the Soviets, they pretty much did. That was true.
Okay, bad example. but you know what I mean? But I'm sure there are people in the Soviet Union that could care less what Jacko was doing on a daily basis. But my point being is that it was, they were indoctrinated to hate us. We were indoctrinated to hate them. And it amazes me that in 2024, you still can go to these churches where people are being told, steer clear of Catholics. If you get anywhere near them, you'll burn up because they're so satanic, but so it doesn't surprise me when you get into these discussions online and people come up with this stuff that is amazing about us being that we don't have Christ involved at all. We've made Mary into a divine being and we worship her. They go on and on and on, and I'm thinking, you know what? 5 minutes of a discussion with me, or 10 minutes sitting in one of our churches, and you'll know that you've been lied to. But they're like, no, I can't talk to a Catholic, and I certainly can't go into a Catholic church. That would be a grave sin on my part to actually sit in on one of your satanic rituals. So obviously they're not going to learn differently. I mean, I will tell you the truth. When I'm having an online discussion with somebody and I find out what denomination or non-denomination they're part of, I research it. I look into it. I want to know what their belief system is so that I can actually try to have a dialogue with them. But if the person on the other side isn't willing to do that, it's kind of all for naught. But I get your point. I mean, I really don't understand this massive anti-Catholic thing going on. But it's been, in the United States, at least, it's been from day one. There were states where it was illegal to be a Catholic back in the day. And in some places, I think it's not much better today. And I can't, but it really surprises me when people will jump on me and say, you're not even Christian and you follow a satanic cult. And I'm like, well, we don't really fit the definition of a cult, or we don't fit the definition of paganism, because if you look at what Catholicism teaches, if you look at there's 1.4 billion of us, if you're telling me those things, it just tells me that you haven't taken the time to actually learn anything about Catholicism, right?
Yeah, like, look, I grew up in a Southern Baptist household. Okay, I didn't know what the hell a Catholic was. Like, oh no, they're Catholic. I do remember there was a Simpsons episode way back in the day where Bart converted to Catholicism, and I think he brought in Homer and Lisa, and I think Marge was the only one left out, and she was like, I can't do it. She's like, why? And that super attractive screechy voice that she had, I can totally see why Homer went for her.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of what was that, All in the Family. It was like, you can stop with that. Those are not the days.
Yeah.
But no, like, I didn't know what the hell a Catholic was, right? my exposure to Catholics was pretty much what my exposure is now to anybody who's actively in the Soviet Union. There's nothing there, right? So it wasn't until I was, I want to say, about 15, 16 years old. I had a kid I went to my church with. His parents, one was a Southern Baptist, his mom. His dad was a Catholic, right? And I was like, I don't know what that means, because I would see his dad sometimes attending the Baptist services, right? And it's like he went like every other week. He would go to mass like every other week. Okay. And then I finally went to mass with him one time. I was like, oh, okay. I still don't understand the difference. Still have zero idea what just happened. I thought it was just a church where they do things differently.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so I do think that's a lot of what most people experience too, when they're like, well, I don't know anything about Catholicism. And then they ask that question to someone who is very anti-Catholic, and they're like, oh, well, they worship 10,000 different saints as gods, and they perform satanic rituals with incense, and they eat babies. Oh, okay.
Well, we do that.
Well, we leave that out. We leave that part out of the catechism until you're actually already in.
Yeah, that part's not in the brochures.
Yeah, we leave that out. It's kind of like you don't explain that the vacation includes a seminar for a timeshare you have to attend until you're already there, right? We have to
right.
we have to be smart about this. But no, like I think that's what a lot of it is. Most people have no idea what Catholicism is, what it entails, because they just weren't exposed to it. And it's easy to do. Well, harder now, but it was a lot easier to do if you grew up like me. I grew up in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. The internet and social media weren't things yet. And if you lived in a small community, I'm not saying if you lived in like Chicago, Miami, New York, LA, obviously you know what Catholics are because they're everywhere, right? And you're part of this huge blend of people. But I grew up in a town. There was 1,700 people there. Every single one of them was either a Wesleyan, a Methodist, or a Baptist.
Oh, Wesleyans.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't think I've seen a Wesleyan since then. But I mean, are they? I don't even know if they're still around. But the point is, I didn't know. But here's the thing: there was a Catholic church. I want to say 25 miles down the road in a town that we rarely went to, because why should we? There's nothing hardly there
except Satan worshipers.
Well, except a Catholic church that is
That's what I meant.
probably about. Well, it's just probably about the size of my house, right? Because it wasn't like there was this huge influx of, or there wasn't like a huge population of Catholics that I even knew of. And if people were Catholic, they just, they didn't run around wearing like a yellow star on the shirt. Oh no, that's not Catholics. But you know what I mean?
That's not us.
They didn't run around waving signs, I'm Catholic. And if I saw a rosary or Virgin Mary, I'm like, oh, they just really like Jesus's mom, and I probably ignored it from there. I didn't know what they were. And so I do think that's probably the case for a lot of people that are around my age demographic that grew up in the same kind of communities. We're like, hey, there's like 3 churches here. There's the First Baptist, the Second Baptist, and the New Baptist. And why is it called the First Baptist? Because it was literally the first one built. That's why they called it First Baptist. It was the first one built in the town. It wasn't like a different denomination of Baptist. It was just the first one built in the town. And it's even named after the town,
Yeah.
But now we live in this age where all of the information in the world is available. Where's my phone? There. Here. We have greater access to information here than the guy who walked around the halls of Alexander's library.
Yeah.
Okay. There's more information here than is missing after the destruction of Alexander's library.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I know it's the Library of Alexandria, but it was still Alexander's. Okay. It was his town. I know. Totally. But it's available here. We have zero excuses as a society to not be informed or aware of absolutely anything other than we just haven't heard of it. And once you do hear of it, let me Google, see what this says. Bing, bing, bing. Done. It's not that hard. The problem is loud people are usually seen as the most authoritative. So you end up with people succumbing to authority bias. Well, this guy has been screaming that Catholics are secret evil cult members who were trying to turn everyone into lizards as loud as he can for the last 5 years. And he's amassed a huge number of followers. So he must be right.
Yeah.
And then when they go and talk to an actual Catholic, we're like, the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, what bothers me though, I will say, is when that line is crossed from simply misunderstanding Catholics and Catholicism to actually despising or hating Catholics or Catholicism.
With
And
intention,
that's where I
intentionality.
get a little annoyed because exactly. But I mean, if you look at it, like we had Brian Burgess on last week. Phenomenal
Mhm.
guest. Can't wait for him to be back. But when he gets into a discussion with somebody, he will say, here's where I take issue with your particular denomination's theology. Here's where you may have gotten it wrong. He doesn't ever say, I'm going to end this conversation because you're a Satan worshiper, you're a pagan, you're a this, you're a that. He doesn't do that. He understands that these are people that their intentions are good, sort of. I mean, they want to love and serve the Lord. That's where they're coming from. Now, they may have taken a path that little shaky, but their intention is to love and serve the Lord, and they're just getting some of the theology wrong, and they have a misunderstanding about what Catholicism is and what it teaches and stuff. But when they then turn around and say, well, you're a pagan, you're a Satanist, you're this and that, that comes from I don't know. I want to say like an area of a combination of laziness and also bigotry. Somebody along the way taught you to hate Catholics for whatever reason. And so instead of saying, you know what, I'm an intelligent person, I've seen Catholics out in the world. They don't seem to be, eating children and things like that. Maybe I should look into it. But they don't do that. They've been told we're bad. You shouldn't associate with us. We're all going straight to hell. And so that's the end of the story. So like I said, it's a combination of laziness and bigotry. But I think that you lose so much when I'm having a discussion with somebody online. Once they start calling me a Satan worshiper and a paganist and all these kind of things, I just say, listen, I wish you well. I enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you. I'll see you later. Because at that point, there is no discussion that's going to be had. And I don't care, like, if I have an actual discussion with somebody who disagrees with Catholicism, if he can articulate his concerns about Catholicism, and then I can do the same with whatever denomination he's part of. And at the end of it, we still say, you know what? Thanks for sharing. I still disagree with you, but I hope you have a great day and you're sincere about it. I'm fine with that. It's only when somebody just tells me to jump off a freaking bridge because I'm Catholic that I have a problem. And I sign off and maybe I say a quick prayer for that person because somewhere along the line, their heart has been completely hardened to truth, and it doesn't serve me any good. Continuing that conversation doesn't serve them well either.
Yeah. And look, if you think that Catholicism is paganism, you need to consult me because I was literally a pagan.
Yeah, true.
And I can tell you that I followed the most popular and common pagan tradition ever by converting to Catholicism.
There you go.
Every pagan eventually converted to Catholicism because that was the most popular tradition and everybody followed. Okay. They converted to Christ. But no, listen.
Yep.
There is a difference between if you're raised to hate Catholics because you're given a false account of what Catholicism is, and so you come out of the gate, well, Catholics are evil, pagans, blasphemers, idolaters, da 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 da. But it's because that's the only thing you know. Then okay, that is acceptable. And I say it's acceptable because that's how you were formed. The difference is once you reach an age where you can say, am I right let me make sure I'm right, because am I? And then you go and look, and then you see, well, no, I was wrong. My parents were wrong. Grandma and grandpa were wrong. The neighbors were wrong. Everybody that told me all these bad things about Catholic, I'm looking into the actual Catholic Church, and none of the things that they say are there. Okay, now, because I'm a mature and emotionally and intellectually intelligent adult, I can change my opinion, even if I don't agree with their theology. Right? But it's like you can't blame this person for hating Catholics if that's the way they were raised and they came up and they never learned any better until they reach the point where, bro, the entirety of the information in the universe is right here in the palm of your hand. They did a whole lot. The same people that are very anti-Catholic, at least half of that demographic, are the exact same ones that screamed for 3.5 years about doing your own research about COVID and the COVID vaccines. Well, do your own research about Catholicism, and when I say do your own research, I don't mean read somebody's blog. Okay. I mean, I'm like, including mine. Okay. If you're not learning your theology from the Bible, the Catechism, and Thomas Aquinas, but you would instead rather listen to someone like, oh, I don't know, Michael Lofton. I had to go there. A big man with a little beard, which is funny. He's like the anti-me, because I used to be a little man with a big beard.
Whoa, look at that.
Yeah.
That's something to think about.
Yeah, he's my anti-Catholic, I guess. But no, seriously. If you're learning your theology from some guy who also thinks that there's a secret code in the Bible that tells you when the end of the world is, maybe you want to rethink. Doing your own research is not, well, this Baptist preacher has a very popular website and a very good blog, and he's got a lot of subscribers. And look at Joel Osteen. He's written so many books. Okay.
I see it.
That's not learning theology.
Yeah.
Okay. You cannot learn theology from any text that is younger than 1,000 years. Okay.
Yeah.
If it's younger than 1,000 years old, you're not going to get theology from what would be the most original source. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Catechism of the Catholic Church. All of the information, yes, of course, it was promulgated by John Paul II, right? All of the information in there has existed for centuries upon centuries, right? And I'm not telling you can only read it from a vellum scroll or on a cave drawing. I'm not telling you that. But new information has to be taken with a grain of salt, because it's 99% gonna include a personal interpretation or a personal bias towards it, unless that new information is a copy paste of the old original information. Like if I take the exact writings of the entire history of the Council of Trent, the Nicene Council, the original church fathers, the Bible, I'm talking Ignatius, I'm talking Augustine, and I copy paste them onto a new piece of paper, that's acceptable. A place to learn your theology from. Not some random guy's blog who was already anti-Catholic, or a Catholic who was already just violently anti-Protestant. Okay? Because that guy has just as much potential as making false claims about Protestants as the angry Protestant has as making false claims about Catholicism.
Yeah.
Right? Vet your source. Yeah. And your source should not be a guy like Pastor Gabe, for example.
Why do you bring him up?
Well, you made me mad last week when you brought him up, so I figured I would.
I know. So I thought we were going to put him in the past, forget about him, move
right.
on.
But you get my
Pastor
point.
Gabe,
Like you can't
course I do.
learn theology from like, oh well, this guy has a pretty decent blog and he, you know, he talks about all kinds of spiritualisms.
Yeah.
You can't learn theology.
No, you can't. But and the thing that I
well,
have
you
to
can, but it's probably very obtuse.
Yes, but what I have to laugh about when it happens is when I'm having a discussion with somebody, and they'll say, of course, they always go to show me chapter and verse, show me chapter and verse, show me chapter and verse in the Bible, right? And so, being one of those Catholics who actually does know some chapters and verses, I will list them, and I say, well, it doesn't really mean that. It doesn't mean that. And I'll say, well, okay, well, here's some writings from the church fathers, which actually back up what I'm saying to you. Here's sacred tradition, which backs up what I'm saying to you. And they'll say that, it's only the Bible. You can't tell me what the church fathers say. You can't tell me what sacred tradition says. It's only, you can only go by the Bible. And then they'll say, and I can prove it to you because here's a YouTube video from my pastor Bob, which tells you how you should be interpreting this. I'm thinking, okay, so if it was written,
we can't listen to the guy that was there.
Yeah.
When the scriptures in the Bible were canonized.
Right.
We can't listen to those guys. We're going to listen to this guy on YouTube.
Pastor Bob on YouTube.
Yeah. One guy, I had the same thing happen to me. There was this guy, he was ranting and raving at me. I can prove to you that the church is full of heresies and they're anti-biblical and they're anti-Christian. Okay, prove it. He sent me to this dude's blog.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I'm like, this guy was blogging in 2002. Is when he started blogging. And let me read a little bit further. Oh, he was a failed mega church pastor who was indicted on embezzlement charge. That's your okay, cool. Got it. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like we talk about, we kind of jokingly talk about Pastor Gabe, but when you look through his biography, he has no formal theological study to his name. He was a top 40 DJ who lost his job, and now he's an expert on all things Jesus. So, look at the source.
Why do you think it takes 10 years to become a priest?
Yes. You probably learned something along the way.
Because you cannot be ignorant of theology.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's the entire discernment period before the formation period?
Yeah.
It takes 10 years to become a priest.
Yeah.
It's not because you can go, oh, I watched some YouTube videos. I read and I've got my Bible, my source material right here. All I got to do is yell about it. That's not how it works. I'm I'm considering joining the permanent diaconate at my parish.
As you should.
Guess what? It's still 6 years for me to do that.
I have several friends. Yeah.
It's 6 years for me to even do that. Yeah. Now, granted, it's not all that. It's not like 6 years of straight study. It's like, you go to class once a month, kind of thing, once, twice a month. You don't have to go to class during the summer months, and you've got like a summer project you got to do. It would probably take 1 to 2 years of study if we crammed it all in there. But, and then you still have to, you got to take your wife 3 times during that formation period. And they go, okay, are you sure you understand what this means for him and his commitment to the church? Because, deacons can be married.
Sure.
Well, only if they're married before they're ordained.
Yeah.
And that takes away from what that man is capable of providing for his family, because he now also has the obligation, because he's received a mark of indelible character upon his soul by the Holy Spirit during the ordination process. He's obligated permanently to serve God and to serve God's people. So that's why they asked the wife 3 times, "You okay with this?" Because it means sometimes you and your family are gonna take a back burner to God and his people. That's what it literally means. And it's still 6 years of formation. Well, no, sorry. It's like 2 years of discernment, and then you become an aspirant, and then you're finally in formation. It's not something that you can be like, well, I took an online course, paid $20, got a certificate. You know nothing of theology. Look, I write a blog every single day almost. We do this show every single day almost. I tweet theological context all day long. And you know what? I'm like Jon Snow, baby. I know nothing. Okay? I talk about things that I know from the way I see it, but I say it with full awareness that I'm saying it in front of much more intelligent Catholics, like guys like Brian Burgess, who will, you, that will correct me if I'm wrong. You've corrected me on this show dozens of times when I've said something that didn't quite match. And I go, oh, okay, got it. And I file it away as I won't make that mistake again. Now I know. The problem is when you get a guy who took an online certificate and think he knows everything. You can't learn. Please do not learn theology from my blog. Okay. Just because I read a whole lot of G.K. Chesterton, C.S. Lewis, and church fathers does not mean I'm a theologian. I have zero formal training in theology. Do not learn theology from me. Do not learn theology from this show. Please don't. If you do, you'll definitely go to hell. Okay. Don't get your
that bad.
Well, I'm just saying, don't get your theology from me or Ed. Get your theology from the church. Get your theology from the original text of the church fathers. Okay? Like, we're not theologians. We're just guys that like to talk to each other for an hour every day. That's us. We know some things, but in the grand scheme of things, even a guy who's been a Catholic for 80 years and has spent 50 of those years studying theology, he will still tell you that he does not know everything. Because it's impossible to have a full, complete human grasp of all of what the Catholic theology is. Why? Because we're only human. And so when I see, and it's funny that I see this now, I was not a Christian because I considered myself to be, I'm not so arrogant to say that there is only one true God. How do I know? That's why that's why I wasn't even a Christian. Okay. I was like, it takes a lot of arrogance to say that. But here's the thing. How are you going to be so arrogant to say that your personal interpretation and your personal discernment of theology is the objective and incorruptible truth? Just because you wrote, or your pastors, because he writes blogs and books and does YouTube videos. Think about it. Because there's 1,000 pastors and preachers and ministers, whatever you want to call them, that do YouTube videos and blogs, and they all disagree with each other. Yet, of the, what do we have right now? About 60,000 priests worldwide.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know there's currently 221,700 parishes. So,
maybe more than that. I think it was like 60,000. I think it was like 60,000 in formation yearly, and obviously they don't all end up.
Yeah.
Obviously they all end up being ordained, because that's why there's several years of discernment and formation, because some people think they're being called to the priesthood but aren't, and that's why it's not like, oh, I applied for the job, I got it, and then I changed my mind. It's not like that. But here's the point: every single Catholic priest will agree on the theology, unless they're just trying to dissent.
Yeah. Currently, there are 407,000 Catholic priests worldwide.
Okay, 407,000 Catholic priests worldwide. Every single one of them had to go the exact same theological training and learning and formation period, versus probably more than 400,000 Protestant preachers, pastors, and ministers, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
I would say there's got to be in excess of 2 to 3 million, and none of them learned the exact same thing.
True.
That's
true. And another big part of the difference is you find a Catholic priest and ask him to trace back his ordination, he can do it to one of the 12 apostles. That blows my mind.
Every single priest can do that.
Yeah. The bishop that ordained him, who can name the bishop who ordained him, who can name the bishop who ordained him, all the way back to an apostle. I mean, come on. I mean, that's what we mean by apostolic succession, right? No one else has that. Yeah. Others claim it, but no one else has it.
Exactly. And that's one of the coolest things ever. It does. I've known this for a while, but it is something that I'm definitely going to ask my priest now. I'm like, okay, which apostle can you trace your ordination back to? I got to ask him.
Yeah.
Just because he'll be like,
it's such a cool question, right?
He will either already have the answer, because he's very much like that kind of guy. He would just know. Okay. Or he would be like, well, now you've piqued my curiosity, and he'll spend the next, whatever period of time getting the answer just so he could tell me. He's like I said, he's that kind of guy. He'll either already know, or he will not stop until he does the search. But chances are, he already knows. Yeah. But yeah, every single priest can trace their ordination back to one of the 12 apostles. And this is talking about Matthias, not Judas, as the other 12, because not that guy. Not
you don't want to trace
guy.
You don't want to trace your ordination back to Judas.
Yeah, if there's anybody that is for certain to be in hell.
Oh, don't open up that big old can of worms.
I'm just saying, we don't have a Saint Judas.
No, we do not.
But no, look, if you're going to learn theology from someone, and yeah, I joked about the whole Michael Lofton thing, but this is a direct quote from my priest, and I'm going to read it here. One of the dark sides of everyone having a platform to talk about anything they want is the influence of grifter amateur theologians who pontificate beyond their intelligence and training. To see the massive hero of the faith, which he's talking about Cardinal Joseph Sin, call out Michael Lofton is great. Lofton wrote a very good book on orthodoxy, but the rest of his stuff demonstrates the typical obtuseness of people who are amateurish in their approach to theology. If you're learning your theology from Twitter and not from St. Thomas Aquinas, the Bible, or the Church Fathers, then you might be part of the problem you keep seeing.
There you go.
That's why I just went on this rant talking about, don't learn theology from me. I don't know a damn thing.
Right? Yeah.
Right? I'm new here. And wouldn't matter if I'm not new here, you know?
Listen, I've said this a million times, is that, I mean, I'm
Zero
cradle Catholic.
authority to teach you theology.
Yeah. I'm cradle Catholic. I for the last close to 20 years, I've been extremely serious about my Catholicism, because I wanted to not just live it by going to mass and things like that. I wanted to understand why I was doing all those things. And so I've been, for 20 years or so, I've been really literally studying it. I've got a bookshelf right to my left here that's probably got 200 books on Catholicism there. Some have been read more than once. Most of them are very dog-eared and stuff. And I know that I will go to my grave not knowing everything about my faith. That's just a given. No matter how, I mean, I'm going to study from now until I pass on, and I still will not know everything about my faith.
Yeah. And the problem is that we live in this Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook society where everybody wants quick and easy answers to deep and complex issues. And it doesn't work that way. This whole, well, if you knew it well enough, you could explain the most complex thing in the most simplistic of ways. That's not the case with God. Okay? That's not how it works. But everybody wants quick, fast, easy answers. And that's what guys like Michael Lofton try to give them. It's what guys like Pastor Gabe try to give them. They want these quick, fast, super easy answers because they lack the ability, or maybe not even the ability, but the desire to do the work that requires a deep, probably years-long theological dive into understanding something, which is, again, why priests have to go through such a long formation period in training and learning. Like, you have to have a master's degree in theology to be a priest. You have to have a master's degree. Okay. It's not like, went to Bible college 2 years. I'm going to open a church. That's not how it works. And that's why I laugh at people who try to defend these positions. Well, I went to Bible college. I don't care. I'm like, my priest went to seminary for 10 years, got a master's in theology, and he'll still be like, I don't know. I got to go ask the bishop. He's older than me. He probably knows. Well, I trust someone who will say, I don't know, but I'll ask someone who might know. Not, I've got all the answers right here in my Passion translation of the Bible.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. I'm like, it blows my mind, the level of arrogance that some people have. I went to Bible college for 2 years. I'm like, look, I've probably read the Bible front to back more times than Ed has in his entire life. Probably. Because that's what you do when you don't have anything else to read and you're in the army and you're just sitting around. I'm going to read it front to back. And that's what I did several times. Guess what? I still know nothing. Okay. And this may be because I'm an idiot. This may be because I was almost a fifth-year high school student. Who knows? Maybe. But I promise you, you can read it front to back, read it front to back, read it front to back every single day and night for years on end. Until you can have it explained in the actual cultural and time-wise context of when something was written, then you don't understand it. Yeah. Because you're just like me, you're just like everybody else. Your understanding and the way that you're able to perceive and interpret things is based on the culture you live in, the culture you're aware of, and the time you live in, and the customs and the time that you've been living in and taking part in. That's just like people don't. It's so simple. Just when they call Mary the Mother of God, it has nothing to do with her being the creator or the source of anything divine. It's based, her title, Mother of God, is based completely on who Christ is. Christ is God made man. Well, why do you call her the queen? Is Christ a descendant of the line of David? Yes. Okay. In Davidic monarchy, the tradition of the Davidic monarchy, the mother of the king was the queen. Well, what about his wives? He had 400 of them, so it didn't matter. They weren't all going to share power as queen. They were pretty much concubines. They had zero authority. They didn't become queen until they had a kid, and that kid became king. That's how it worked.
Right.
But you don't understand that because you're just like, oh, she's not a queen. She's not married to the king. I'm sorry. This is not, Elizabeth and Charles or Philip or King George. It's not what we're talking about here. If you don't understand the cultural context and the actual historical context of the time and culture and just overall era of when something was written, reading the Bible's not going to help you understand it. You have to go deeper than that to understand what it means and where.
Yeah.
Well, thou shalt not kill. No, sorry. Greek, it's thou shalt not murder, but Greek doesn't differentiate between the two. Not in Koine Greek, in which, we translated it. Just saying. Yes, I know it's in the Old Testament. The Old Testament wasn't written in Greek. It was written in Hebrew. But guess what? Same thing. So you have to have you have to have an understanding of basic etymology too to even get things. Sorry, the Bible wasn't sent down here in ye old English via telefax to King Henry VIII. It just didn't work that way.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, Ed, what'd you bring out of your basement? We got about 8 minutes.
Well, I decided, I thought, it is July 3rd, tomorrow's July 4th. I'd bring something fun, no dead bodies, no relics, no stuff like that. No
So
World
not
War
fun.
I or World
Got
War II
it.
stuff. So not fun. Well, what I brought for you today, and it's very exciting, is, we talk all the time about the richness of a Catholic faith. And it's so cool. We have just the people that have been Catholic throughout the ages, the 10,000 saints that we have, all these really awesome people. But we also have superheroes within the Catholic faith, and everyone knows that. And one of them, well, it has to be because they made a Marvel comic of Saint Francis, so he must be a superhero. This is a comic from, you see right there, Marvel Comics from 1980. Francis, brother of the universe. And I'll tell you how this came about, because it's pretty cool. Because there was a gentleman who was an executive with Marvel Comics in the mid 70s. His name was Mr. Gene Pelk. Well, he was also a very good Catholic, and he used to hang out with Franciscans. In particular, he used to have coffee with Father Campion Lally and Father Flavian Walsh. And one day they were sitting there after attending Mass and having their coffee together. And one of the Franciscans said, "Why don't you guys do a comic book about Saint Francis?" And Mr. Pelk thought about it, and he said, "I think that's a pretty good idea. I think we should. He is kind of a superhero of sorts." So it went on, and they thought, well, how are we going to do this? It turned out that one of the Franciscans was an expert on the life of Francis. The other one happened to have been a devout, lifelong collector of comic books. And so between them, they had a pretty good idea of what they could present that would be acceptable as a comic book for St. Francis. Mr. Pelk took the idea to Marvel. They loved the idea. The executives there went nuts about it. They thought, this is great. So they brought the Catholics on board, the two Franciscans, to kind of write the dialogue, which was then cleaned up a little bit by Marvel dialogue experts. And they used actually Mary Jo Duffy as the writer, and she was known as one of the best writers in the field at that time. And they brought together some of the better artists too. They brought John Buscema in, who was a great penciler. He's well known for his work with Conan the Barbarian and the Silver Surfer. And then as an illustrator, they brought in Marie Severin, who worked on Doctor Strange, the Hulk, the Submariner, and even the Spectacular Spider-Man. So they didn't pull any punches. They brought in some of their best people. And they put together, for publication in 1980, Marvel Comics Francis. And it's basically what you would expect. You go through there, and there's just the basic comic book format describing the life and times of our man, St. Francis of Assisi. So St. Francis, the Marvel superhero, is who we have with us today.
All right, that's okay. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, right?
However, I am disappointed that you don't have it in its original plastic sleeve, because that just the value and just down.
Listen, this is probably a 7.5. I will tell you that right now. It goes back
it's nothing compared to my Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. Okay,
don't even start. We can go on. I'm always prepared. We have. I can bring out my Bob Perky rookie card.
Yeah, you were there when he signed that card for you, though.
Whatever you mentioned, I've probably got it right here. I also have St. John Chrysostom's a rookie card right here.
You got his autograph too, I bet.
Got his autograph on there. Well, he was a couple years ahead of me in seminary, but there you go.
Nice. But all right, we've rambled enough. That's pretty cool. I knew there was some comics in that. I think one of them depicted John Paul II.
I have that one as well. I have Marvel did John Paul II, and they also did Mother Teresa. So I have both of those in the collection as well.
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know there was one like St. Francis.
It's funny because that's the one that started it all.
Ah, cool. Okay, very cool. Well, anyway, listen. You've listened to me and Ed Randall. Ramble forever. Ed Randall. I finally revealed his last name. You've listened to me and Ed ramble for a while now, but it's on that hour mark, and I'm pretty sure you're tired of listening to me. So the only thing that I would like to remind you of is to go download Holy Habits from the App Store and Google Play. And once you're done with that, you can just relax, because Catholicism is so much easier with that app. You just don't have to even try anymore. But no, we'll wrap it up, and we will see you all again on today, Wednesday. So we'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, we'll see you on Friday.
All right, we'll see you Friday. And you know what that means? That means Monday when we start up. Monday will be the 50th episode of this show. Friday would have been the 50th episode, but it's not, because we're not doing an episode tomorrow. So Monday, episode 50, we'll do something truly spectacular. Not really.
Will there be cake?
But we'll see you. No, but we'll see you on Friday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Happy Independence Day. God bless you all. God bless this great,
everybody. God bless America.
Great nation of America. See you Monday.
Absolutely.
Goodbye.
See you, buddy.